Hein? Un gros bon... Wow! Ouais, il y a quelque chose qui se passe en ville. Le responsable qui me garde, il m'a dit qu'il y avait quelque chose qui se passait. Il y avait genre 1000 personnes au centre-ville du Témiscamingue. Donc, il est quelle heure? 6h55. On va aller voir ça tout de suite. On va juste faire... aller voir là-bas. Ça, je vais aller chercher la pizza. Ah oui, je vois du monde là-bas. Oui, ça applaudit. Ouais. Il y a eu du monde là-bas, ouais. Victime des pensionnats. Hey, écoutez ça! Je cours dans la rue! Regardez ça! Ouais, il y a quelque chose... Ah oui! Ah oui! Allez voir ça tout de même, mes amis. Tous ceux qui ont vécu dans les pensionnats, inclus moi. Moi, j'ai vécu dans une sorte de pensionnat aussi.
Although these schools were not taught in the curriculum at this time, I decided to do my own research with the help of my parents and perform a speech. Being as young as I was, I didn't fully understand the extent of what truly went on in these schools. Until I was confused when adults approached me with comments about being brave for speaking about these schools, or even that I was too young to understand. I believe that the small speech and the learning process of what the schools were is what lit up the spark inside me. A spark that shone onto my path of reclaiming my identity, and a desire to help and guide others to reclaim their own. As years passed and I became more involved with my spirit and my culture, I knew it wasn't a coincidence I was so drawn to the topic at such a young age.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Desjardins. I'm a member of Wolf Lake First Nation and I've been working there for just over a year now as the member service coordinator. I wanted to share a little bit of my story growing up. Growing up, I was not considered Indigenous. When people would ask me what I was, I would just say, I don't know, or I'm white, I think. I wouldn't even consider myself Indigenous. I was very confused and felt out of place. And as you've heard, my Papa Norm Young, growing up, got his status stripped away, which led my mom to grow up without her status as well. Then years down the line, one by one, we each were able to get our status back. I just really wish it didn't take me getting my status.
Ça, c'est tous ceux qui ont vécu dans les pensionnats, ça. Parce que ce qu'on entend les témoignages, hein. C'est les victimes des survivants ou des survivants.
Growing up, she was just as confused, if not more, which got me thinking my children will most likely feel the same way. This is just another example of the attempted genocide, but we as people are still here and won't be going anywhere anytime soon. We would like to welcome you to the unceded territory of the Algonquin people of Wolf Lake First Nation and Kerouac First Nation. Today is September 30th, National Truth and Reconciliation Day. A day marked to honor residential school survivors, those who did not make it home, and their families. We would like to honor and recognize the survivors from our communities who are standing with us today, who walked alongside of us, and have a moment of silence to honor those who did not make it home. The first residential school was opened in Canada in 1831. By 1880, the federal government had adopted a funding policy to open residential schools across Canada. Indigenous children were taken away from their homes, from their families, and placed into schools. Upon arrival, they were stripped of their identity, their clothes were removed, their hair was cut, and they were no longer able to speak their language. If they did, they were punished. Many atrocities were committed within these schools. Children were physically, sexually, emotionally, and spiritually harmed. The last residential school closed in 1998, 24 years ago. We were both young children when the last school closed, something that is hard to understand and comprehend.
In 2008 to 2015, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was established to provide those directly or indirectly affected by the legacy of the Indian residential school system with an opportunity to share their stories and experiences. The Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement, the largest class action settlement in Canadian history, began to be implemented in 2007. The TRC spent 6 years traveling to all parts of Canada and heard from more than 6,500 witnesses. The TRC created a historical record of the residential school system. In June 2015, the TRC held its closing event in Ottawa and presented the executive summary of the findings. Contained in its multi-volume final report are 94 calls to action to further reconciliation between Canadians and Indigenous peoples.
We would like to share a few of these calls to action with you today. We call upon the federal, provincial, territorial, and Aboriginal governments to commit to reducing the number of Aboriginal children in care by monitoring and assessing neglect investigations, provide adequate resources to enable Aboriginal communities and child welfare organizations to keep Aboriginal families together where it is safe to do so, and to keep children in culturally appropriate environments, regardless of where they reside, and to ensure that social workers and those who conduct child welfare investigations are properly educated and trained on the impact history of residential schools.
We call upon the federal government to eliminate the discrepancy in federal education funding for First Nations children being educated on reserves and those First Nations children being educated off reserves.
We call upon those who can effect change within the Canadian healthcare system to recognize the value of Aboriginal healing practices and to use them in the treatment of Aboriginal patients in collaboration with Aboriginal healers and elders where requested by Aboriginal patients.
We call upon the federal government to eliminate barriers to the creation of additional Aboriginal healing lodges within the federal correctional system.
We call upon the federal government to establish a multi-year funding for community-based youth organizations to deliver programs on reconciliation and establish a national network to share information and best practices.
Miigwech, and thank you to all for coming here this evening and standing alongside of us as we honor our survivors and remember those who are not here today. Today is a day for us to come together as a community and learn from each other and move forward in a positive way. We have the chance to mend the mistakes from the past and ensure that our children never have to experience what our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents did. We encourage you to continue this journey of learning and to read all 94 calls of action on your own. To watch movies like We Were Children, Muffins for Granny, or Indian Horse. To read books that share the diverse history and cultural practices of our people, and to speak to members of our community to learn. If you would like more resources, please reach out to members of our staff at Kibowak First Nation or Wolf Lake First Nation. We are always happy to help out. Chimigwech.
Bravo! Ça n'a pas été facile pour eux autres, mais je vais vous dire une chose, c'est un soutien. Moi, je vais leur serrer les... Au moins, ils ont survécu. Hello.
Glad you came out.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Bring it again.
I had the last one.
Well done, you two girls.
Miigwech.
Yeah.
Chimigwich.
Miigwech. Un fou chial déjà, puis j'ai fait comme ça à Marc. Hey, bonjour!
Hey,
Oui. How are you?
good. You?
Good. Thank you. Oh. Regardez ça. Et puis on est fort. Bon, il faut que j'y aille tout de suite parce que là, il y en a un qui m'attend à la maison. Quel magnifique témoignage qu'ils ont fait. Magnifique témoignage. Bravo les filles. Bon, c'est ça. Bonne soirée à vous tous.